So who talks first? You talk first? I talk first.
Ladies, gentlemen, Ewoks of some age, welcome to episode 2 of Hell of a Pilot. With me, as always, to my right, only after a couple more surgeries will he finally be able to fulfill his life as a TIE defender, Mike Marriott. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm in the recovery stage. I've got 2 wings. I've just got one more wing sort of to be attached.
Have you got the shield generator employed?
Yeah, it's uncomfortable though.
And with me, on my left, the man who's gonna do Imperial propaganda better than Imperial propaganda.
Ooh. That's a big call.
Lachlan. How are you tonight, Lachlan?
I don't know. That's not good. That's not a good introduction. I got a bit frazzled there for a second, didn't I? No, I'm good at this. I can do podcasts. Who says I can't do podcasts?
Just believe in yourself, Lachlan. We do.
I believe in me.
So, it's the end of the year. We finally got the podcast set up, and we want to talk about the new year. But firstly, Mike, what have you been flying?
I have decided to bench the Imperials for a little while. I've been playing this game for a year and have flown Imperials exclusively to the detriment of flying other things. To the point where I think I'm feeling a little stale and burnt out on flying TIE defenders. Shocker, that happens. So I'm gonna mix things up with a bit of scum. I'm gonna mix it. I think I'm gonna borrow your list, what we like to call the Chaos Special.
Oh yes.
Which is a fabulous list of Fen Rao, Manaroo, and Cavil. I've never flown a Y-wing.
Oh, that's a shocker.
Dude.
Yeah, I know.
Everybody remembers their first Y-wing.
I know. I'm gonna burst my Y-wing cherry. Sorry.
something cherry bomb. Wait.
Yes. But also I'm gonna pick up the Rebels again because actually one of the ships which I really loved flying and I love the model and I love everything about it is the Arc 170. So I'm looking forward to actually mucking around with that. I think there's enormous potential there.
It's an enormous wingspan there.
Yes.
Some enormous guns are going to get snapped off.
Yes.
I always put my arcs on 3 pegs whenever I'm flying it. People walk past and go, "What the hell are you doing?" Like, it's a practical decision, you guys.
It needs to tower over everything. Actually, I liked the last time me and Lockie played a couple of weeks ago. Oh, yeah. And we did an experiment. We were able to put an Arc 170 on 9 pegs.
10 pegs.
10 pegs.
10 pegs. Thank you so much. 10 pegs. Yeah.
It was a problem to push around the board. It kind of wobbled, but it was good fun.
Yeah. Wake up, Jeff. Everybody's wiggling.
Anyway, that's me.
Lachlan, aside from 10 peg arcs, what have you been flying?
I've been trying to get as many T-70 aces out there as I can. I've been putting my boy Elo Asti with Snap Wexley because I like Snap. Doesn't seem to fear stress as much as some of the other X-Wings do, because with primed thrusters you can not primed thrusters. What's that new one? Yeah, it is primed thrusters. You can be stressed and still boost. So he gets his free boost after any length of maneuver 2, 3, or 4. So I put a targeting astromech on him. I've been K-turning him behind other ships, like flying past them. He can boost closer if he overshoots too much, and the targeting astromech puts a target lock on there. So I'm flipping him around a bit.
You should try it with Blue Ace. I think Blue Ace is the one that allows you to do a boost with a 1 hard.
Yeah, Blue Ace is great, yeah.
And so you just be like, I do a K-turn. Or you could do like a Talon roll and then do a second boost. You could end up, that'd be very weird.
I'll tell you what, actually, the other night I flew against somebody at Gatekeepers, one of the obviously outstanding pilots. He had a 3 T-70 list with Jess Parva. And I tell you what, she's a beast.
What's Jess Parva's ability?
So she's has a reroll ability. So reroll if you've got pilots in, allied pilots within vicinity of you of range 1, you get to reroll attack and defense dice.
I have seen that one, yeah.
And I tell you what, that's really tanky, and it's difficult to take down. So, she's a Biggs. She's a Biggs and a T70. And the player I was playing against was, 3 T70s, Jess, I think it was Red Ace and Poe or something like that. Solid squad, put out a lot of damage, flies very differently to sort of like your typical sort of Imperial Aces thing. But you know what? I think the conventional wisdom where people saying, oh, let's write off the T70, it's only got T2 agility, blah, blah, blah. You know what? I think fly them. I
don't like people talking smack about my rebels.
No.
Nope.
So I reckon, you know what? Do it. Owen, yourself.
Had a couple of games recently. Continued to fly my my special, as you put it, with Manaru, Fenrau, and Cabal.
And it's raining focus.
It's raining focus. Everyone gets focus. It's so good. But I've had a bit of fun lately with replacing Manaru with Paylob, because I love the Hawk and I love Paylob, and the shenanigans you can get into it is so good.
Yeah.
You put him with a Ion Blaster. Ion turret, yeah. And you can practically lock an enemy ship just out of the fight, at least for a turn, or you could set up the perfect 5-hit combo with Fenrau. And if you replace Caval with Talonbane Cobra, it's 2 5-dice attack with a lockdown ship, and a ship that has very little actions at all. It's just a lot of fun. And the faces people pull when they realize that they've lost the game in 3 turns is just fun.
I saw you fly that the other night, and when I saw your boys Fen and Talonbane lined up next to each other, and I thought, oh yeah, that's a lot of red dice.
big shout out to Brendan. He told me to put on a cloaking device on Talonbane Cobra, and I was like, why would you do that? He's gonna die anyway. No, you decloak, move forward to 4K behind the opponent, or you do a 4 straight and a boost with the engine upgrade, and you can just about be on the other side of the board on turn 2. And if you have Fenrau coming up at the front, you've got an immediate pincer attack. If it ever works. It hasn't worked so far, but if it does, it'll be really cool.
It will be a thing of glory.
All right, we're getting out of topic.
Yep.
So, Lachlan, what have we got on the show today?
In our regular Holonet news section, we're going to cover 2 of the new TIE fighters, 1 Imperial one and 1 Rebel one. And then we're going to do the One Hell of a Pilot section. We're going to cover...
Was it your boy?
Your boy?
Dash Rendar.
Dash Rendar, Dash. Dashing Dash.
Yeah, the origin of Dash. Then we're going to talk about our top 5s for this year. Our top 5 what? You wait, we'll tell you.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. And
top 5's a clickbait. Clickbait is good.
Right.
Hey, that was my idea.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I think to round up the show in the Cantina section, we're going to talk about, I think did something actually happen the last week or 2?
Oh, I don't know. It's been a couple of weeks.
Are we doing that thing where we forget that Rogue One came out?
Oh, damn it! That's right. Yeah, I think we might as well mention it.
It's only the biggest thing to happen to Star Wars in like
12
30
months.
years.
30 years.
Yeah, it's true.
It's 30 years. I'm sorry. It's actually better than the other.
Yes.
It's better than The Force Awakens. It is.
Well, we'll talk about that. We'll debate that.
And I will give you a proper spoiler warning. There will be spoilers. I'm going to take the spoiler off my car, put it on the show. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that yet, but I'll figure it out. And so, there we go. On with the show.
Good evening, loyal citizens. Welcome once again to Holonet News. Here's what's going on tonight in your empire. Noted rebel agitators Ezra Bridger and Zeb Aurelius have absconded with a noble Imperial TIE fighter, no doubt realizing its supreme efficiency as a combat spacecraft. Every Imperial pilot knows a TIE fighter is a symbol of the Emperor's authority and benevolence, and now it seems the rebels are becoming jealous. And who can blame them? Tragically, Mandalorian malcontents Sabine Wren has vandalized this sleek, simple craft in garish yellow tones. Whatever will they think of next? This is a reminder that every TIE fighter is the Emperor's personal property and should be treated with respect. In other news, applications are filling fast for the TIE Striker training on the beautiful planet Scarif. If you want to serve your empire, but also seek adventure in picturesque faraway places, consider joining your local Striker squadron. Every little bit helps, and remember, TIE Strikers do it on the beach.
So it's been a couple of days now since the TIE Striker has been released, and some of us have got our hands on it, some of us have flown against it, and I thought we'd start talking about it because it's a very unique ship for Fantasy Flight X-Wing. It's done something that no other ship has done. Mike.
Baron Mike.
Baron
Yes.
von Mike.
Yes.
Please, enlighten us.
I've got one striker, and I've had a chance to play it a couple of times. So being the Imperial player, I was very, very keen to get my hands on this. First off, the model is beautiful. It's a very different design. It's elegant, it's long, it's sleek, and the wings flap.
Have you seen the picture of the dabbing striker?
Yes.
That's
Yeah. You know, I think I spent the first 5 minutes when I did that. You know, when that exciting stage when you get the ship for the first time and you take it carefully out of the thing. I just sat there flapping its wings up and down, going,
Yeah.
What position does it look best in?
When I bought the blister pack and I had a look at it through the plastic, I saw the pivot points on the top, and I thought, do the wings move? Nah, the wings don't move. And I got out of the packet and I was like, flap, 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 flap.
So we've been trying to come up with all kinds of names for it. But look,
Flappy tie?
Yeah, the flappy tie or flappy McFlap face, who knows? But
The flapper.
the flapper, yeah. But anyway, look, a couple of things about it. There's that. It's a very, very different ship to a lot of the your traditional tie chassis, which is 2 guns or 3 guns at best, 3 agility, very similar dials. The last 2 ships that FFG have put out for the Imperials have been very different in flavour and feel. The Special Forces and this one. It does carry on the tradition of having sort of the cheap ace. So we've got the Duchess, Countdown, and Pure Sabak, which we'll talk about. 3 red dice is better than 2, obviously. And I think in the current meta where we've had that power creep where... In the old days, Suntir having 3 dice and a focus would put out enough damage. You know, that's not enough anymore. So I think 3 red dice are a minimum these days for an attack ship.
For a ship that isn't a swarm ship.
Yes.
You're not gonna get swarms of strikers. Swarms of TIE fighters only putting out 2s, that's alright. People sort of swarm with Z95s and mini swarm, sort of swarm-ish with A-Wings, but to pull its own weight, the ship needs 3 reds.
Look, it does, and I think there was a little minor controversy that the fact that the generic, Black Squadron with the EPT was priced at the point where you couldn't get 5 of them in the squad. Like, you can get a crack shot one, but you can get 4. But look, anyway, bygones. I've flown it a couple times. The first time I flew it, it was challenging. It's very, very different, especially for someone like myself who's gotten very used to flying TIE Defender, which only does 1 move apparently.
What is it gonna do? Is it a 4K? Whoa!
Watching a game of X-Wing is kind of like watching a game of X-Wing with a lot of TIE Defenders in it is like watching a game of cricket. The players, they move in straight lines and they turn around and then they turn back and they do straight lines again.
I think it's actually a good thing for Imperial players to have a ship which feels and handles very differently. It's kind of like a mashup of a TIE Interceptor and a TIE Phantom, if that makes sense to you guys.
In the sense that it has the mandatory move.
If you put the upgrade on it, so look, let's talk about the chassis. 3 red, 2 agility. If you put the lightweight frame on it, that's you get to roll another green depending on how many reds. So it's really like a 2.5 agility.
Yeah, 2 green and 1 green asterisk.
Yeah, yeah. And look, you know what? Actually, that's okay. It's enough for that ship. Moves very, very differently. At first, I'll be honest, the first time I flew it, I didn't like it because it handled so differently. The second time, I kind of go, okay. But now the more I think about it, is like it's a ship that's going to require a lot more thought. And I'll be honest, it's not an entry-level ship. I think, Owen, you mentioned this before.
Personally, if you're going to fly it, then you'd always put the title on it. But with this mandatory boost beforehand, you have to have a really good spatial awareness. Like, where is this boost one to the left going to put me? And then I have to think about my next position.
Yeah. Especially since when you're moving, it's very easy to forget about the length of the base being the same as 1 forward movement. So if you have the adaptive ailerons and you do a 3 straight, you've done a 5 straight.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so on top of that, it's like, if you wanted to do a 1 straight, 3 hard. Does it have a 3 hard? I don't know why it wouldn't have a 3 hard.
No, it doesn't actually, from memory. I think if we look at the dial, I'll check with the dial as you're talking. But yeah, that's some of the unusual things about this ship. in that it handles very, very differently to TIE Interceptor or TIE Defender or even TIE Fighter. It's a funny dial, but look, it's something which actually moves fast, and I think it's a flanker. I think it's not a jouster.
I think so.
And I think I made the mistake in my first game of treating it kind of like as a jouster with a 3 red.
But what I like is that their top pilot is kind of easy mode.
Yes.
Because it's like, I don't want to use the title this time, so I'm not going to.
Yep.
You can get like a little bit of a mind game in there.
Yeah.
The other person doesn't know exactly what's gonna because the PS8 ace is called Duchess. I'm thinking of Sterling Archer right now.
Oh,
You're worried about the TIE Striker is going to be flying into some sort of zone of danger.
Yes.
I don't know what you. Yeah.
Oh, look, I mean, immediately when I saw the name Duchess, I just wanted to put it together with the Countess Riyadh and just call it the girls as a squad. So, that's
My ladies!
Yes, actually, that's the name of the squad.
And then the wing of the striker tips its cap. Yes.
The pilots themselves, you got some low sort of PS1s coming at 17 points. You've got the sort of PS4, which has an EPT allow for crack shot. That has potential, I think.
Because everybody looks at the aces first, but
Yes.
a strength of a blister pack also lies in the generics, and that's something I want to talk about again in a minute. But.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, actually, you know what? I think the generic strikers, even at PS1, have a lot of potential there because they're a real threat. If you don't deal with them, you've got a 3-attack ship which can come in on the flanks and really hurt you.
And they would be a very squirrely blocker.
Yeah, and I tell you what, I played against one of our guys at Games Lab, and he used a PS1 striker as a blocker. He didn't put the adaptive airloins on, and it was a fantastic blocker. Going back to the pilots, we've got to mention Pure Sabak.
Pure Sabak, that's a cool one. Those of you listening who have seen Pure Sabak, you might have wondered what is that exactly if you're not super up to date on the lore outside of the game. Sabak is the card game in the Star Wars universe, and Pure Sabak is a hand that you can have in that. So basically, this pilot called Pure Sabak in the real world would be called Blackjack.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good. Can you imagine? Wouldn't you want a wingman called Blackjack?
I'm going to change my name to Blackjack.
Yeah. And the hand, everybody knows that Han Solo won the Millennium Falcon from Lando. You lost it to me fair and square. He had the hand of Pure Sabak in the game. So if you have the Lando Calrissian crew card and the Han Solo crew card, you hold them side by side, you can see that forms one image of them playing cards, and Han Solo has
that.
Yeah. Have a look, and Han Solo's got his hand of Pure Sabak. He's got his Blackjack that won the Falcon. So this Imperial pilot. Yeah, is either just lucky or, constantly taking the credits from the other pilots when they're waiting to get in the air.
But look, I say this one's gotten the most attention or the most interest from players in terms of the fact that, the damage potential there. So the pilot ability is that when attacking, if you have one or fewer damage cards, roll an additional attack dice. I mean, who doesn't want more red dice? So look, I think there's a lot of potential there. I've seen somebody run Pure Sabak with an engine upgrade. Which was really interesting, made it really squirrely.
Why?
Oh, no, it works.
I mean, I guess
wow.
based on its pilot ability, Pure Sabak, this is going to sound really dumb, Pure Sabak doesn't want to get shot. Like, no ship wants to get shot, but Pure Sabak really doesn't because you lose your special rule. I suppose an engine upgrade, keeps it out of the enemy's arc a bit more, but... You want to be aggressive with that many red dice, so
yeah. Look, it's a funny ship. Like it's a little bit like the Protector Starfighter, where it really sort of pushes you to be aggressive.
Yeah.
But when things go wrong, they go wrong.
My engine's on fire. Engine fire. Oh.
So Pure Sabak is actually a PS6.
It's a 6. Yeah, you could put it to 8 if you want to. It's got an EPT.
PS6 is a dead zone, isn't it?
I'm actually kind of glad that it's not higher. If it was higher, it would be a very, very strong ship.
It would be, in fact, if anything, if it was a 9, I'd think it would be...
It would be the Alpha Strike-iest ship of Alpha Strikes.
Yeah.
Yes, devil's advocate, though. As soon as... I mean, it's not impossible to shoot a PS9 ship, and as soon as he's damaged, he's got no special rule. He's a PS9 pilot who's not doing anything flash.
Correct. Yeah.
I completely agree with that, but I think that even if you just use him as an Alpha Strike, as a one-shot wonder, especially with
Swarm Leader, yes.
With his ability to Swarm Leader, adding 2 extra red die that's really good. And especially if he's going to Alpha Strike.
Yeah.
That's a potential 7 dice attack at range 1?
Oh, one-way trip!
Yeah.
And look, if he pulls that off once, he's done his job.
He just needs to do it once.
Yeah, look, Pure Sabaka's interest. For me, the one that caught my eye straight away was Countdown now.
I want to talk about Countdown.
It's the final Countdown. Yeah.
I love Countdown.
Yes.
Countdown is where I would put Swarm Leader.
If you
Because
could.
No EPT, though.
Countdown
No
has
EPT.
no EPT.
No EPT.
He's the only named ace in the blister not to have an EPT.
because you wouldn't want to put Swarm Leader on him.
No, because if you did that, that would be OP,
That
yeah.
would be really good.
It would, as in, like, silly good.
Silly good, yeah.
Silly good, yeah.
Well, that's interesting because, for those who don't know, Countdown's ability is that if he is shot at, you can cancel all dice results
Except one.
except one.
And take
So
1 damage.
You take 1 damage,
Yep.
and then you receive a stress. You cannot do this if you're stressed.
Yeah.
And the TIE Striker dial is not very conducive for stress. What that means is he can't be Alpha Strike.
Correct.
And with his low pilot skill, that's a big thing. I mean, I would love to roll up with my Fen Rao and go, here's 5 dice, deal with it. And you'll take 1 damage, and that's it.
Yeah, look, I see Countdown really as kind of being this, being a tank, being able to roll up to your Fenraus and even your Dengaroos or your Dengars and go, that's fine. Keep shooting at me because you shoot me, I'll shoot you back.
That's the thing is that when you've got your enemy at range 1, sometimes
Yep.
they've got you at range 1.
Correct.
So if you Countdown,
You want to put Countdown in the front.
exactly, because Countdown you can get him in range 1 of something like a B-wing, or an X-wing. All of a sudden they've got 4 shots on you, except the maximum damage they can do is 1.
Yep.
The TIE Striker has a short range dial, so
Yes, it's good to knife
make
fight.
use of it.
Yeah, and I tell you,
I think it's actually a really good, as you said before, anti-Dengaroo list. Anti-Dengaroo card. Because Dengaroo wipes squads of TIE fighters. And anything with low hull, he could take out in turn. But he can't do that with Countdown. Because you could roll up with Countdown, and if he shoots at Countdown, he's either lost the chance to fire at Pure Sabak, or whatever you're taking, in which case Countdown can happily fire at him. Or he can shoot at Countdown. Countdown will take 1 damage, and then he can't shoot it. If he shoots at Countdown again, Countdown will just not shoot, and then he won't be able to shoot at him again. So I think it's a solid way for swarms to come back into the meta, especially with this swarm leader. This ballista pack is good for swarms.
Yes.
Especially Countdown and especially swarm leader.
and look, with Countdown is at 20 points, he's really cheap. So for that kind of cost, you've got something there which is a ship which can really nullify those high PS, high threat aces or ships, which traditionally, you have trouble tangling with because of their high PS and their damage output.
So let's talk about what we don't like about the ship. I think we've already talked about how it is a little bit too gimmicky.
At first, I was a little uncertain about the ship, but now I think it has enormous potential. I think it's a case of just having to learn some new mechanics and learning a completely different ship for Imperials. In fact, I can't think of any other ship that's comparable in the game to this.
A gimmicky to use that word. A
kind of
gimmicky
janky.
ship. But a gimmicky janky ship added into the game once in a while gives opportunity for a different playstyle without having to change the rules of the game or add an entirely new mechanic. They came up with something new that applies to only one ship, and if you want to fly it, you do, and if you don't, you don't.
Sabine's Masterpiece is an interesting choice for Fantasy Flight to bring out. Because, number one, it's the same model as the TIE Fighter with just a better paint job.
It's pretty.
It's a very pretty ship.
It's very pretty.
And I like that they've gone sort of all in with Rebels, because I love Rebels, the show. It's a really good show. And what they've done with Sabine's Masterpiece is very, very funny. For those who don't know, the reason an extra crew member in the TIE Fighter is not because there's a seat for the crew member, it's just that they've just crammed themselves in and gone, yep, this will work fine. And it's janky, and it's funny, and I like it. So, let's talk about this model. It's the same as a TIE Fighter model. What's to talk about? Mike?
Well, as I said before, it's pretty. I think the production quality of FFG's models just continues to get better and better. At least from the images I've seen, it looks fantastic. When you look at the little spinny GIF they have on the FFG website, it looks damn good. I mean, I'd buy that just for my Imperial. I'd put Wampa in that just for funsies.
Yeah, it's true, actually.
That is not a regulation paint job, recruit.
And Flyspot's going, Wampa!
No, but it's Wampa, so don't worry about it. So, Wampa's got a new ride, as far as I'm concerned.
FFG, someone else has said this before, but they just hate repainters. They just hate them. They took Poe's TIE Fighter, Poe's X-Wing, and they've released that. And now they've done this.
I saw a Reddit post of a guy it was quite common for people to put up, varying degrees of quality, their own version of Black One, taking the plain blue and grey X-Wing, painting it black. I saw a guy who goes, oh yeah, well how do you like this? He took a black X-Wing and he painted it blue and grey. And all the comments were from people tearing their hair out, going, why have you done this, you psychopath? And I imagine he had a great time, and I like this mad genius, whoever he was.
Because reasons, why not? But look, first off, the model's great. The ship itself, it's a TIE fighter. So we know what it does. 2 red, 3 agility, 3 hull. Pretty much, they've stolen it. But I think what's really interesting about this release is the crew options that you get. And the fact that now the Rebels have their hands on a nice little pocket ace. And I think that's interesting, because I was been thinking, often you've got that list where you've got a VCX and Biggs or something like that, and you want to chuck in something else. Well, the TIE Fighter, you can do some interesting things, and I think with some of the new Rebel crew options, you've got some interesting things. Like, I think Rebel TIE Fighter lends itself well to, say, putting Bodhi, the new crew member from the U-Wing pack, in there, flying around and helping just hand out target locks. You get a target lock, and you get a target lock, and that kind of stuff. So it sort of can fit in that kind of recon scout role and sort of, do a few interesting things.
It's worth noting, or even important to note, though, that while the main selling point of Sabine's TIE at the moment is the fact that you can put a crew in the back seat, only one Sabine's TIE Fighter can have the crew member. It's called Sabine's Masterpiece is the name of the title. So even though you can have 4 of the models on the board at the time if you want, you can fly all of them because it's not a unique ship. There aren't any generics, they're all named ships, but only one of them can have the title that allows the crew member in the back.
Yeah.
And the illicit, so whatever you do, don't put a tiny mind link on it.
It'll be searching for like-minded minds.
Like-minded individuals.
Finding nothing.
A tiny mind link, very tiny mind link, a link of only one mind.
It's looping round and around. Look,
you could put that on a Millennium Falcon or Dash, and they could be both the tiny mind links.
Ray. No, like as a joke, you could,
as Ray, yeah.
Yeah, Ray. Yeah. You could chuck a tiny mind link on this and on Ray with the smuggling compartment. Why? I don't know, but I don't know.
Fun.
But you know what? I tell you
Someone
what.
make it work. I wanted to see it work.
But you know what happened? Ray would get 2 focus.
Yeah, that'd be good. That should be very good.
When you think about it, potentially Ray's getting 2 focus and re-roll blanks with Finn. But anyway, moving on. Let's talk about the pilots.
Let's talk about the pilots. Yes, Ahsoka Tano. She's PS7 with the captured TIE card as well as the Sabine's Masterpiece. Captured TIE is. They have to be a pilot skill higher or same as it to be able to shoot at Ahsoka.
Correct.
So if you gave her an EPT, so it'd become to 9, so she could fly around and just do what she does, which is, at the start of the combat phase, you may spend 1 focus token to choose one of the friendly ship at range 1, and it may perform a free action. I'm not sure how they'd justify that with, hey, why is that TIE fighter just casually escorting Biggs Darklighter? Oh, it must be a prisoner. Sure why
thing.
Is it yellow? Shut up. That allows it to be a very good support ship. I think the Rebels have some pretty good support ships out there. At least, they try to.
Yeah.
It seems like that's what the Rebels are about, is kind of handballing to each other. Yeah.
I mean, synergy is very much the Rebel thing. We've also got, within Sabine's, we've got the Sabines, which is the Sabine Wren PS5 TIE Fighter.
Have you found a Sabine? Did you mention that it's Sabine?
Yes, I mentioned it was Sabine.
I'm pretty sure that you haven't. Let's talk about Sabine.
I didn't know there were Sabine cards in X-Wing.
It's the first time I've heard of it.
I don't think there's enough Sabine in X-Wing, personally. But
Needs more Sabine.
we need more Sabine.
There has been an awakening. Have you felt it?
Oh, it's glorious. But anyway,
That was so bad.
it's awesome.
We're gonna have to cut so much of this. Sabine's ability is is my favorite one. The one I think I would use if I had the Sabine TIE Fighter. Immediately before you reveal your maneuver, you may perform a free boost or barrel roll. Kind of a little bit along the lines of what they might have been trying to do with the Striker. I mean, how many times have you been playing a game and just wished you could maybe edge around that asteroid a little bit before you made your move? You just weren't facing quite the right way. Sabine can do that. And Sabine was the first one of these I ever saw. Before they came out, a friend of mine proxied it so we could test it. He put Lando Calrissian in the back seat. The Lando crew card is, as an action, you roll 2 green dice and you get whatever comes up. If you roll 2 blanks, it sucks to be you. If you roll 2 focus, you get 2 focus, 2 evade, or the combination, whatever. So I was once shooting at him at range 3... which meant that when he rolled his 2 evades, he had 6 defense dice, if you please. And he put a hotshot blaster on as the illicit, so I couldn't sneak up behind him because I was going to get shot. It was really weird. It only did 2. I mean, Sabine in a TIE Fighter only does 2 reds of attack, so it wasn't a threat in that sense. But it was this weirdly intimidating thing. Like, I didn't want to get close to it. It weirded me out.
Look, in some respects, this ability is the same that she has on the attack shuttle. In some respects, it reminds me of Jake Farrell in the A-Wing as well, in terms of you take a focus and you get a boost or barrel roll. So it's got great repositioning.
I don't know if I like this any better than the shuttle that it comes in. I actually like the shuttle probably more than her in a TIE Fighter.
Yeah, I agree, and I think the shuttle doesn't get enough play because you can put a turret on that, like a auto blaster or TLT or something, yeah.
I really don't know why it doesn't, because it's a really cool ship.
Yeah, because, I've seen people starting to play with the shuttles as well. So look, that's more Sabine because there's not enough Sabine. Captain Rex, who, for me, I used to love the Clone Wars. I love Rex in Rebels, so... and I'll talk about this later in the show about the flavour of the pilots that FFG has in this, but more and more of these condition cards are coming into the game. And yeah, we've been debating that. So
I think we're all a bit torn on how you feel about condition cards. Lockie, do you want to give your point of view?
I'm gonna sound very resistant to change, I suppose. Old before my time, but I kind of like it when games like this don't change too much. A game like this is beautiful because of its simplicity. You learn the mechanics very early on, and then your job as the player is to just spend your time coming up with the combinations you can make within that and seeing what you can come up with that's fun. When the makers of the game, and this happens also with miniatures games and card games, all sorts, I've seen it before, a game gets successful, it goes on for a few years, then the makers kind of go, we're afraid no one's going to play anymore, we have to introduce something that changes it, we have to make it different somehow, it wasn't good enough how it was before. And I'm just sitting here going, yeah, it was fine, leave it. And so these conditions are going to get brought in, and when they're new, there's going to be so many examples of people going, oh, wait, no, sorry, I got the condition, I was supposed to do that, do you mind is it okay if I do that? Sorry, I forgot, don't worry, I won't next time. It's going to be a bit of a mess.
Look, I think I agree. Like, I think in one sense I can understand what the designer's doing because let's introduce some new aspects or elements to the game rather than just fly around and pew-pew. Great. But as Lockie was saying, I think it interrupts that kind of natural game flow. And to me, it's like, taking the game of chess, which is beautiful and simple, and then going, I'm going to add conditions when you take a pawn. I mean, so like,
even chess has TIE defenders. It has the rooks.
Yeah, it does. They just...
What are they going to do? Turn around.
Yeah.
Well, from my point of view,
They needed more space on cards.
probably wanted to do this with a couple of cards before. The one we've got in front of us is Captain Rex. Like, you had the suppressive fire condition card, and it's a bit wordy, but we've already had condition cards. They've had condition cards on how to use bombs. Eventually, we just figure out that's how it works.
In the way that they made the titles for the TIE SF and the Arc 170.
Yeah,
they didn't want to cram in tiny letters on each one. You can shoot 3 forwards, except for when you only shoot 2 backwards, and that sort of thing. That's why they made those ships only 2 red dice, and you take the title, and that title card compounds the extra abilities it can do.
Anyway, let's not get bogged down on that. I think it's time to move on to a little bit of lore.
That's one hell of a pilot!
In today's One Hell of a Pilot section, we're going to take you to the distant future, the year 1996, and we're going to talk about LucasArts' first foray into an expansion of the expanded universe. This, what I am holding right here, it's a book. Books. Books. A book is this thing we used to have.
It's like a computer, except worse.
Yeah, it's like it's it's a computer printed on bits of paper. So
I'm gonna do an internet. Whoa! I'm gonna do a book. Oh.
What is that? So back in '96, before the Phantom Menace came out in '99, they were kind of testing the water to see how people would react to additional Star Wars outside of the original trilogy. The answer to that was Shadows of the Empire. It was a novel, and it was comic books, and it was most famously, those of you out there are going to know what I'm talking about, the Nintendo 64 game. Dash Rendar was the Han Solo stand-in of that franchise. The story takes place
Harrison Ford didn't want to be part of it anymore.
No, Harrison Ford's been trying to kill Han Solo since 1980, basically.
He succeeded!
Did he ever?
Did his persistence pay off or what?
I am so frustrated with Harrison Ford. Like, he couldn't let me have my childhood hero, but no, he'll make a sequel to Blade Runner, that's fine. Like, shut up, Harrison Ford. So, the story of Shadows of the Empire takes place between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. So, obviously, Han's frozen in carbonite, but they needed the franchise to have a cool character, so they brought in Dash Rendar.
Does he have shoulder pads?
Does he ever?
Oh,
you should see, at some point, Google Dash Rendar, and you'll see he's got these massive bits of padded brown leather on both arms because of reasons. But
That's gonna stop a blaster.
Oh, yeah. Well, when a stormtrooper is shooting at you,
Anything will stop a
you
blaster.
can anything will stop a blaster.
You can stand naked in an airlock and not get hit.
Yeah, exactly. Dash and his co-pilot, the droid Lebo, fly the Outrider, which was sort of a home brand knockoff of the Millennium Falcon. The Millennium Falcon is the YT-1200, the YT-1300 rather, and the Outrider is the YT-2400.
Also now canon.
Yes, thanks to Rebels.
Thanks to Rebels,
Yes,
it's now canon.
that's
Yeah,
right.
I was so excited to see that.
It's a
Yeah.
terrible episode. Don't watch it.
It's okay.
Mixed reviews. So, the pilot ability of Dash Rendar is he can have the ability to land on, he doesn't care about obstacles within the game. The reason for that is because in the Nintendo 64 game, there were a couple of missions where you were flying through asteroid fields, and you had to destroy asteroids to get through them. The objective of the level was to survive as long as you could by destroying asteroids that would fly to you progressively quicker as you played along. So I really love the way they've brought the flavor of that segment into the game. There were back on the Nintendo 64, there were these, every now and then there'd be a glowing purple asteroid. If you shot that, you get like bonus points. So remember, kids, when someone's throwing rocks at you, focus on the purple ones. So they've brought this across perfectly into the X-Wing tabletop game. The legacy of Shadows of the Empire was the way it really took off. There were toys of that. There were toys of every character, and obviously the borderline flagship game for the N64, Shadows of the Empire. Everybody had it. It was a movie, but it wasn't. Because you had the character, you could play with it, but you couldn't watch it on screen. So the storyline of the novel was Prince Shizor. You might know him as the Virago pilot in the Scum
Starfighter.
The one that no one ever flies.
The one that no one ever flies.
The one that comes with auto thruster.
He was introduced.
The one you buy for auto thrusters.
Yeah. So he was introduced.
Guri.
Yeah, Guri is his android assistant. See, so all of them were introduced in this novel as well. Prince Shizor, leader of the Black Sun crime syndicate, was planning revenge on Darth Vader for murdering numerous members of his species. And he discovered, because criminal organizations always have spies, he discovered Vader's mission to convert Luke to the dark side and realized that the best way for him to humiliate Vader and become second in command of the Empire was to kill Luke Skywalker. So the story is that Luke's now being under threat of capture by Vader and murder by Shizor.
Star Wars was kind of like this property this franchise which everybody loved, but and Lucas was milking for the toys. But the question was, what do we do with this IP? What do we do with this universe? And one of the reasons why I got into the expanded universe was because, well, I just wanted more Star Wars. So it was that sort of insatiable demand from the fan base for more and more. But I think, it became a bit of a running joke in the sort of old expanded universe, what's now known as Legends, is that you could literally account for every nanosecond of the Big Three's existence.
Yeah.
Because they just filled it up with so many things. And this is also touches upon what we're going to get to later with Rogue One.
Yeah, especially since he's now a very popular character within Legends. He's still a popular character, I think, in the tabletop game, and he started out as just the poor man's home brand Han Solo, basically. Like
Harrison Ford.
Ford. So even the way the common tactic of strapping the heavy laser cannon onto the Outrider is basically how everybody plays him. Even that's kind of represented by those asteroid levels within the Nintendo game. And so the success of this character was sort of the beginning of Star Wars expanding out to be even bigger than it was. Alright, so to wrap it up, I mean, it really sums up how popular Dash Rendar is. The fact that it was last year, I think, you could win the alt art Dash Rendar card and just...
Can we talk about the alt art Dash Rendar card?
Yeah.
It's not good.
Rebel, your face is a mess. It just... Yeah.
Yeah, put him and Hera's alt cards together.
Oh, wow.
Why did they... There are so many good artists out there. There's so much. You could just Google Dash Rendar, pick one of them. Any of them.
It's... Look,
he's 40% chin. Look at him.
I will say the artist did get the shoulder pads. That's accurate and to scale. It's you know what, like this alt art card to me has always looked like bad fan art that you would find, sort of like in the sort of very nether regions of Tumblr where you shouldn't go. We were looking at the Dash Rendar toys. I tell you what, they're glorious. 2-word, cod pieces.
And mullets!
Our rebellion is all that remains to push back the Empire. We think you might be able to help us.
So the year's almost out. Happy New Year to those who are listening to it in the New Year. Happy Christmas.
Merry X-Wing, miss.
Merry Xmas.
Can't just say Happy Life Day.
Happy Life Day. Kwanzaa. Happy Kwanzaa.
To all you and your Wookiee families, Happy Life Day.
Yes.
I want a Wookiee family member.
No, you don't. There's hair everywhere. So we thought we would give our top 5 X-Wing events, X-Wing related topics, X-Wing things of the new year. Red 5 reporting in.
Number 5.
The Dengaroo list. Dengaroo is a very different way to play X-Wing. Typically, you would build ships that could work together as a squad, but if one was lost, you're not out of the game. This list goes full tilt the other way. It throws cards in there that have not been used ever. Countermeasures was a 3-point card that no one had ever used, and yet it is so important on Dengaroo. This list says, I have 2 ships. One ship is just running away, and the other ship is going to solo your list. Come at me.
It's a Frankenstein monster.
It's a Frankenstein monster, and it's beautiful. You don't see it much anymore with Defenders, but I'm so glad it exists. You just can't kill it.
Unless you can take Manaroo out first, like timey Manaroo down sport, basically. if you can stop Manaroo from helping Dengar out, then you've got yourself in with a chance.
Look, I tell you what, but Jeff Burling was the guy who created this. He's a noted sort of innovator in X-Wing, and I think
Dr. Frankenstein.
he is the Dr. Frankenstein. He's the Victor Frankenstein of the
It wasn't
game.
supposed to be this way. It was supposed to be a thing of beauty.
But no, like I mean, but it's alive. But look, I tell you what. What's interesting was it's very much the case of the law of unintended consequences. Who would have thought being able to take 30, 40, 50 stress doesn't matter? Here's a list that just shrugs off a game mechanic. I remember the shell-shocked post-traumatic stress of players who would fly in with like TIE swarms or top-tier lists and walk away from the table 10, 15 minutes later crying.
I admit I don't pay heaps of attention to new releases for the Scum faction. So after the Jumpmaster came out, I went on the forum, I had a look, and people in almost no time were talking about Dengaru. It was this word that kept coming up, Dengaru. People were talking about it like it was a thing that happened to them. And you know,
I got Dengaru.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
First
look,
time I fought against it, I got Dengaru.
yeah, look, it is one of those things.
Dengaru Awakening.
Oh,
That's so stupid.
I'm leaving? Not even here anymore.
but Lucky, you're 5.
And
he's back.
my number 5, I've just put the subheading here in our notes. Shara is Bae. She's not just called that. Shara is Bae. You know, I misjudged the Arc 170 completely. I wasn't super excited about it before I saw it come out because I thought, oh, okay, great, another Rebel ship with a fair bit of hull and only one evade. Okay, sensing a theme. But then as soon as you actually get an Arc on the board and you realize what you can do with the crew and with the dial, my word. So I love the old T-65 X-Wing, and I wanted a way to get them back in. So Shara Bae, whose ability is when an ally is at range 1 to 2, they can use her target lock as their own. You put a weapons engineer as her crew, so she can now have 2 target locks. I like to take Wes Jansen and Wedge Antilles, keep them close by. It's hard to get action economy on an old X-Wing. So if you can keep these 3 together, in a turn, you let the X-Wings focus, you let Shara target lock. All of a sudden, these X-Wing aces with deadly abilities now have, in one turn, focus and target lock. I made it as an anti-defender list because Jansen with VI, who's now pilot skill 10, is going pretty much before everybody.
Yep.
He's taking away an evade token. He can take away Omega Leader's target lock, and then Wedge comes in at the last minute and shoots at somebody, lowering their evade. The 1-2 punch with these 3 together, and it hinges on Shara. Shara is Bae.
Yeah, I remember playing against that list of yours, and just the table was covered in target locks.
Yeah, you made a stack of them. I beat
Yeah.
a Dengaru. I
You
beat
did.
a Dengaru with my Shara list.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
You took out a Dengaru, and it's a solid list. So I think and I'll talk about the arc later.
Mike, your top 5.
Yeah, look, this is not meant to be controversial, but I think as an Imperial player, I felt some of the recent releases, and with some notable exceptions, were maybe a little undercooked. I was really looking forward to the TIE Special Forces. I really love Backdraft. I think that's a great ship. But
Backdraft's so good.
Backdraft is great, but that ship feels like a pre-buff defender, as in there's something really, really good wanting to get out. But the 2 agility, the point cost...
It has a lot of health and hull.
Do you think the lightweight frame is going to help?
Yes, I do, and I'm sort of really looking at a backdraft build with lightweight frame, which will help it.
You wouldn't take any other modifications.
No.
Backdraft though is kind of a kamikaze ship almost.
Yes.
You fly in a straight line towards the enemy, and then you Braveheart at them.
Yep.
Which is I don't know if you've
Yes,
seen the movie Braveheart when William Wallace gets all the Scottish people to stand in a line and moon the English.
Yeah.
That's what you do with Backdraft.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
even put lightning reflexes on Backdraft.
The TIE Striker, initially I felt a little underwhelmed as well, but I've now come around to thinking that's just a different kind of ship. That's, I wouldn't say a negative, it's just that I felt like I don't know, it's like for me, the Special Forces feels like a missed opportunity.
Number 4.
Number 4 for me is the championship season. A lot of people have been saying it's too much X-Wing too fast. But as someone who's never actually played a competitive game, like I never played Magic, I never played all that much 40k,
so I didn't have competitions. So now that I've got into this game as a competitive game, I really love that there was 2 championship seasons. I did the first regional, did terribly, but I loved it. Went to nationals, did alright, loved it. Went to regionals again, did alright,
Did
loved
more
it.
than alright.
Did alright.
And now you have enough Veteran Instincts cards to wallpaper a house.
Which
I
he's
gave
done.
them all away. Now I have lots of predators.
Aha!
That's really it for me. I think I'll be heading over to the ACT regionals because I can't get enough regionals. Mike, what is your number 4?
Mine is the Arc 170 because I think this is a ship which hasn't had enough love and there's so much potential there. I think we're yet to see the best come out of it. And I've noticed like a lot of people flying Nora combined with Dash and with Ray, and sort of people are really starting to explore it. But as Lockie said before, I didn't rate the ship, but when I actually got it, I went out and immediately bought another one because I love flying them in a pair.
Raider of the Lost Ark.
Oh, yes. But I tell you what, it's a ship which I'm going to be flying a lot more, and for me, just the model is just beautiful. It's still one of my favourite models in the game.
It's got really, really big front guns and the tiniest small guns at the back.
Yeah, I know.
So it's a save. It's fine.
It's like whoever's sitting in the back's going, bing, 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 bing.
Hey, but they're taking off one agility.
Yeah.
Oh, Lachlan.
Number 4, short and sweet for me. Call it, not all heroes wear capes. Heroes of the Artillery cluster, not a cape to be seen, but have been playing it with you guys and really enjoying it.
Yeah, look, as we've mentioned in the last show, it's just a fantastic expansion to the X-Wing game itself. And seriously, FFG, because we know you're going to listen to this, please make that a thing.
The call signs are a bit of fun. I'm not called Hazard because I'm a danger to myself and others. It's because my X-Wing that I play Artillery with has yellow and black stripes. So it's you really put your own personality into your Artillery cluster ships.
Number 3
for me was X-Wing Worlds. Title of X-Wing Champion has left the United States of America.
Say what?
Same guy for 3 years.
Paul Heaver. People had converted to Hevorian. It was a thing. I put it on my census.
But
Actually,
now,
I remember reading on the Fantasy Flight forum, even before those games were played, people saying, hey, what's Paul going to design this year when he wins?
Yeah.
I wonder what they're saying now.
Look, but I will say about this Paul Heaver, I don't know him, but I've heard him a lot in the interviews and everything like that, and I've seen him on some of the sort of streamed YouTube channels. Comes across as a genuinely modest, really down-to-earth guy.
Yeah.
He just kicks butt in X-Wing.
he's just really good
He's
at
really good.
tiny spaceships.
Yep.
And also tiny miniatures.
Yeah.
Imperial Assault.
Yeah, he's good there.
And he even mentioned that he might have just dropped X-Wing for Imperial Assault if he was doing well at Imperial Assault, but a lot of people probably wouldn't have been too happy. But the title has moved over to a Dutch player called Nan Torf. And has the best X-Wing name ever. And he was flying Dangaroo. He out-Dangarooed defenders, and that's a very hard thing to do, so caps off to you, Nan Torf.
I tell you what, it takes a lot of skill at that level to win the world title,
Oh,
regardless of any list that you're flying. And the fact that he pulled it off, I think, is amazing. And it'll be interesting to see what he does next year. And I'm keen to see what card he designs.
Oh, so am I. So, for those keeping tally, Scum, Imperials, and Rebels have all won a Worlds. Finally. Scum for life. Lachlan, what are you in for?
Number 3 for me, just touching quickly on something I'd mentioned before. The TIE D title. Obviously, X7 was the standout in Imperial Veterans. It brought the Defenders way back into the forefront. I mean, talk about Revenge of the Sith. The X7 really brought the dark side back. But TIE D is a modest success. Obviously, you still have to pay the points for the cannons, but if you put on a tractor beam, you can send the glaives out there on their own, lower the agility of your intended victim, then fire 3 shots at them. You can run them in pairs. You can really ruin someone's day when you're ironing them all over the place. Keeping the Empire neat and tidy.
That's right, I'm sorry, that rebel ship's in the way.
Oh, that took me a second.
Oh, jeez.
That joke has gotten me fired, listeners. It's been lovely speaking to you, but I've gone home now.
Mike, you're number 3.
Look, mine's more about the flavour of the game. I'm a huge fan of the Rebels TV show. I think it's just wonderful. I mean, yes, it's a cartoon show. Yes, I'm a man in his 40s, and I'm watching it. But I tell you what, it's bloody good.
I really, really like the Rebels show.
Yeah.
It started off for me as a slow burn, but season 2 ending, Darth Vader shows up, and he is an amazing Darth Vader. James Earl Jones comes back and reprises his role as Darth Vader.
A lot of respect for that guy, not turning down a role in something as modest as a cartoon. Well done.
Well, I'll tell you what, but what I've really enjoyed was the fact that within the game itself, we've had all these ships which tie into the show. And you know what? The ships are actually good.
Yes.
The Ghost, I flew the Ghost a lot earlier this year and really enjoyed it. I'm going to go back to flying it because I think it's a fabulous chassis. It can do so much with it. The Phantom shuttle, which is fantastic. The Inquisitor for Imperial players is a solid ship.
The Inquisitor Alt Art for Worlds, that was awesome.
I haven't seen that.
Oh, it's good.
I'll Google that in a minute. And while I've stolen attention, I want to gush for a second about putting the Hera crew in a B-Wing.
Oh, I got a better one. Put the Hera crew in a U-Wing. Stop.
Yep.
Never leave the star.
Oh.
Or just keep turning around.
No, just stay still.
Yeah.
And then you get some Y-Wings, and you just put, cluster mines in front of it, so they have to come to you through cluster mines.
That's so bad. But look, got the Rebel tie, which is, that's coming in via the show as well. Look, all in all, I just love the fact, and I think I mentioned this before in the other show, the pilots and the abilities are reflective of the Star Wars universe and the lore, and I love that flavour.
Numero 2.
Number 2 for me was a Tiny Mind Link, and the absolute shenanigans that you can do with the Tiny Mind Link. A Tiny Mind Link, if you don't know, if you have a focus and someone acquires a focus, everyone with a Tiny Mind Link gets focus. Same with stress, but only to a maximum of 1. So you can stress a ship out completely, but if it's Tiny Mind Linked and one of your others gets a focus somehow, everyone gets a focus. So that works really well with Paylob, which is one of my favourite ships, because he takes it. I'm going to take your focus, and now all of my ships are focused. Also, the obvious one is Manaru, where...
Oh, that's so dirty.
It's so good.
It's dirty.
Roll up, take a focus, everyone is focused, give a focus to someone else, she gets a focus.
Yeah, and that's where me as an Imperial player, I stare across the board and it's like raining focus tokens.
I think, what's the most you can get? I think a single ship can get to a maximum of 4.
Not sure.
5.
Yeah.
It can be 5 with payload. As far as I know, you could go... If you put 6.
Yeah.
Recon
Do I hear 7? 6 going once, 6 going...
But is there such thing as too much focus?
There's never too much focus.
Can I just say, when Atani was released, not being a Scum player, I kind of just glossed over that card. I was kind of like, what's 1 point? Kind of like, okay. And my immediate thought was, well, if you take a focus, good, but you got to get a stress. Little did I know stress doesn't matter anymore. But look, I mean, I'm going to be jumping into Scum over the next month, and I'm going to be doing 2 things, which is going to make me feel a little dirty. Is both, I'm going to take Atani, and I'm going to fly Zuckuss.
Yeah, Zuckuss.
At number 2, my favourite Star Wars thing this year has been Rogue One. It was exactly what I wanted. It had a lot of what I hoped they would do, not much of what I hoped they wouldn't. It took full advantage of the fact that it was separate from the trilogy. The style change was just slightly different, and they took advantage of that in a good way. They let us see the Empire for what it was. The menace of the Empire was always just kind of implied, but now we actually see stormtroopers skulking up and down streets, harassing people like they lived in a police state. We see tanks rolling through populated areas like in the Middle East. This is how people show strength of force. They kind of evoked Vietnam at the end, almost, with door gunners shooting out of transport ships and people in very kind of Vietnam American Marine looking helmets, and the way Krennic showed he wasn't even particularly evil, even though he was definitely a villain. He just viewed the Empire as his government job that he wanted to, get promoted in. When it was a war film that showed people shooting at each other and fighting with, having aerial dogfights. It was
something my brother said after we watched that movie. He's like, that was Star Wars.
Yes.
That wasn't Skywalker family changes the universe. War is hell. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, we'll talk about the film in the Cantina section.
I will spoil the hell out of it.
But look, my number 2. I think the arrival of Jumpmaster earlier this year introduced a profound shift to the game in a number of ways. It sort of gave birth, if you remember, the days of the contracted scouts. Yes.
I'd never seen the Jumpmaster before, and I'm not much of a tournament player. I'm not very competitive. I'm just a good-looking guy who plays X-Wing. So I went along to this store. Thanks, man. So I went along to this store, and this guy plops down 3 ships. I didn't know what was what. I took 3 ships. He killed me in 4 turns, and the first turn was just both of us moving into range. The plasma torpedo, Alpha Strike, and it's the only bad experience I've ever had playing the game. And I just looked at this guy and I was like, why have you done this? Why have you made it so you have to play as little of X-Wing as possible? It had to change. It couldn't be allowed to continue that this could happen.
Look, and I think, the Deadeye nerf was very necessary. I mean, the other thing I'd like to, we can talk about another stage is stress, but look, but also it introduced Dengar, that gave birth to Dengaroo, but also Manaroo. I mean, that expansion gave so much to the game.
She's a powerful ability.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you think about it, sort of like everything that came out of that box had a big impact on the game, and I think I tend to view it as the sort of before and after Jumpmaster world. I mean, yes, we can talk about the Defender as having a big impact. It does, and I'll talk about that coming up, but really, for me, I think the Jumpmaster was one of the most significant events in the game in the last 12 months.
Okay, we're going to do number 1 now.
Just normally.
Just normally.
Number 1.
Okay, good.
So for me, as an Imperial player, clearly the release of the Imperial Veterans with the Defender buff and the X7 title is my number 1.
I want to call the Imperial Veterans box the box of the year, basically.
I think so. Absolutely. I think...
We want the bomber back.
And the bomber is starting to get a lot more play, and I think people are exploring that. I think Lockie and I joke that we're the hipster Defender players. We were playing them before.
I was flying Vessery last year, man.
That's right. We used to say, you may have heard of this thing, it's called a Defender.
Yeah.
I mean, not everyone's playing them, but look, I tell you what.
Does that mean you're not going to play it anymore because they're cool?
Well, I've stopped playing them because everybody does.
No, I'm not a good hipster. I'm just...
Look, I tell you what, I had a hell of a lot of fun flying that ship, particularly Countess Ryad. I was able to win a PAX title with that. I've got 2 of those red Defenders, which I just adore.
Lovely red Defenders.
And I tell you what, just putting 2 red Defenders down on the vinyl and just making them go around has been so much fun. I probably did overindulge in my Defender love, but I tell you what, for me, that's the number 1.
Number 1 for me, I'm calling this an X-Wing related experience, was the weekend I got to work at PAX. Actually, Mike helped me get that job through some connections of his, and I got to spend 2 days sitting in the miniatures area at the tabletop section at PAX, proudly wearing a tabletop tutor badge around my neck. People would come up, a mix of people. I had men, women, children. They came up. Some of them had seen the game before. Some of them had never heard of it before. They just liked Star Wars. One father and son came up and said that they owned the game. They just hadn't played it because they needed someone to teach them how. So had a range of people. I found that after having to explain only very little, most people were able to play the demo game very easily. We just had the
core sets.
The core set. Thank you.
Just
We just had the core sets set up. 1 X-Wing, 2 TIE fighters. We had people sit down. I showed them the cards. I showed them the models, the dice, and the rulers. Sort of talked them through it, and they played, and they could pick it up almost immediately. It's actually not even just X-Wing related. Going to PAX was one of my highlights of the year 2016, just in my own life, because 2 people came up to me at PAX and they said, we enjoyed speaking to you so much, we actually went to one of the stores within PAX and we bought the game because of speaking to you, and they were holding it there. They were showing me. They held the copy of X-Wing they had bought, and they said it was because they had spoken to me, and that was just it was fun to spend time at PAX and show people X-Wing, and just had a really nice response from the people I met.
Yeah, I was there as well, and I was a tabletop instructor, and I just loved it. For me, that PAX weekend, and for those of you who don't know, PAX is the gaming convention that was held in Melbourne. Spent 3 days teaching punters how to play X-Wing. At one point, we ran a massive epic game. We sort of got new players. We put up on one of the boards, said, "Hey, do you want to fly a Star Destroyer?"
How long did that take?
Took us a couple hours.
Nice.
But it was like, I put down the sort of, the big ships, and we had 2 teams of 3, and people were cheering. We had a crowd around us, and it was just so much fun. But for me personally, the PAX experience was I had this father and his son and his other one of his mates. They kept coming back every day, and we started off on the core set, and by day 3, I had them flying Boba Fett and Darth Vader.
So was that the guy? He had these Star Wars themed hockey jerseys.
Yes.
Was that him?
Yeah,
he was
and it was just absolute delight to sort of introduce people to the game.
Because the unexpected but enjoyable side effect as well was that my girlfriend started calling me Pax-Man afterwards, and that was walk. That was Anyway.
So number 1 for me, and take a knee, Sonny, because this is going to get real, is actually starting this podcast. Because I think it's a kind of a running joke that 2016 was not a very good year, and probably the highlight for this year was starting this podcast and getting some like-minded people. Mike, Lockie, you're awesome.
You too, man.
Yeah, I am.
But it's nice to be told.
And just making it happen. It was something I'd had in the pipelines for a couple months before we finally got it started. And the feedback from you guys has been pretty positive. So I wanted to thank all of you listeners personally, especially you, David. I don't know a David, but if you're listening, David, I love you.
And everybody out there, everybody out there, David included, I wish you could see the amount of effort that Owen's going to edit all this stuff. Yep. So,
I tell look, and this is sort of Owen sort of put this idea to me first, and I was honoured to be asked. I really appreciated the sort of opportunity, and I tell you what,
you're my first pick.
Oh.
I've only met you once beforehand, Lucky.
Yeah. Number 2! Alright!
Yeah, but Lachlan was my first pick.
Yeah.
Everyone's a winner.
I called my mum straight away and I said, "Mum, I'm adequate!"
And she said, "That's nice, dear."
What, again? Did you see a doctor about it? So thank you, listeners.
Thank you.
Especially Dave.
Especially you, David.
David, this one's for you.
Welcome once again to the End of the Night Cantina. The Midnight Run. I don't know about you, but I have finished watching Rogue One, or I finally got to see Rogue One. And I'm going to give all of you a massive spoiler. So, spoilers. Are you ready? Are you listening? Because the spoilers are coming. Don't say I didn't warn you, because this is your warning. Spoilers. Everybody dies!
Like everybody.
Everybody.
So what do we think?
I reckon, and I will not be alone in this, K2SO, voiced by Alan Tudyk, who you Droid of the Year. You would know him from
Firefly.
From Firefly, exactly, and from
I'm a leaf on the wind.
Yeah, a leaf on. That's what I thought of when I saw K2SO die. I thought, oh, Wash just can't get a break. And he also did the voice for Sonny. You might know in the film I, Robot. A few years ago with Will Smith. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I'm just picturing Sonny meeting K2SO and being like, "Who are you?" and K2SO going, "I am you, but stronger."
So,
when we first meet Cassian Andor, he's speaking to a rebel informant, and the informant is nervous. You can see he's twitchy. He's scared of getting caught. So, Cassian, rather than getting caught himself, he just shoots the guy.
Yeah, he's like putting down a rabbit. There, everything will be fine.
Exactly. We've never seen the rebels behaving that way. Like they were an insurgent group. They were kind of like terrorist group almost.
One person's rebels, another person's terrorists, and that's well done. Did anyone spot the over the radio?
Yes.
General Syndulla.
Yes.
Yes. I like it.
For the avid Star Wars fans, there was a number of sort of Easter eggs there in terms of Rebels. You saw there's a scene where Chopper rolls by.
Yep.
I read about that, but I didn't see it.
Oh yeah, you'll see. Yeah. So and also, the Ghost makes an appearance in the Rebel fleet, and the call out to General Syndulla. But
I liked. You might not know them by name, Ponderbaba and Dr. Evazan, the disfigured guy. And the bloke who loses an arm, so Obi-Wan in the cantina. They
did!
They popped up at one point.
I'm so glad they were back.
Yeah.
They were still starting shit.
They just don't behave themselves.
You'll be dead.
But the other, I think possibly my favourite part in terms of just touches to make it feel connected was they used old footage of Red Leader and Gold Leader that was filmed in the 70s. It wasn't actually in A New Hope, but you can tell it's authentically them. And when you only see their faces for a second, you see their faces, they say a few words and they disappear, but you feel like they're there, and you know that these guys, they then end up assaulting the Death Star. And
Look, I think for me the film, it's very much what I wanted from this film. It's a big shift in tone and structure. It's great that we're not having everything doesn't revolve around the Skywalker soap opera.
What did you think of Tarkin? CG Tarkin?
I'm in favour.
Okay.
I'm in favour.
I'm in favour with it too. You're the only people who've said so.
CG Leia, I'm not in favour.
Really? Why?
I felt like it was too... See, the way
She looked
I've...
like a goddess. Like, it was way too shiny.
But she is a goddess.
Yeah.
No.
Jeez. The way I was I've had this debate with a friend of mine he was against Tarkin and I'm for it. The way I thought about it is that if you willing suspension of disbelief and go with me on this, it's kind of a period drama almost. Like if you imagine this was a piece of history that really happened, it would be like making a film set in the 30s and refusing to have Hitler or Goebbels or anybody be in it. So it made it more authentic that Tarkin was a big wheel in the Empire and in the production of the Death Star, and I just feel like he needed to be there.
Yep.
You could tell that his face was CGI. I'm not just saying that because I know Peter Cushing is dead. Like, this was not a real person, you could tell looking at it, but I feel like it was a high quality image. The expression uncanny valley has been thrown around a lot.
I disagree.
I'm not with it. Yeah.
My wife went to see it without me. And so she came back and I said, "What'd you think of Tarkin?" She's like, "Oh, the guy who steals the credit." I'm like, "Yeah, that guy." It's like, "What about him?" Like, "What'd you think of the CG?" She's like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah. Look, I think it possibly represents a new step forward in this kind of use of CGI to bring back actors or characters. So, look, I think there's a lot going on in the film. I think, look, it's not a perfect film in many respects, but it's not the film we asked for, but it's the film we wanted.
In terms of it not being perfect, I like the fact that they took a little bit of advantage of it being allowed to be stylistically different. The fact that the names of the planets popped up down the bottom and that sort of thing. The fact there wasn't an opening crawl distanced it from the trilogy, that was fine. The only thing I didn't like was it didn't have original trilogy music. And I feel...
I actually like that because it wasn't... So there was two things... Well, you're right. There was no opening crawl, which I liked. And also the Star Wars Rogue One wasn't filled in. It was an outline showing that it wasn't a main part of the story.
Yep.
And I liked that the music was similar, but different. Because I felt like I knew what they were trying to portray without having to rely on old 30-year-old music.
Yeah, and look, maybe the original sort of trilogy music would feel slightly bombastic and out of place in this universe. I mean,
it's not the original. It's not a trilogy.
Yeah, look. I think the main success for me of this as a film is that this is expanding the Star Wars universe. Previously, for fans, it was comic books and novels and video games and all the rest of it, where we kind of got this broader universe.
Star Wars was one of the original franchises to have an expanded universe.
It was.
Really?
It was. Yes, it was. Yeah, it was. So, like, it's sort of... But now, if you like, it's happening at the sort of... at the cinema level and at the canonical level, if you would. As in, now, if you look at the quote-unquote official Star Wars timeline, Jyn Erso, Rogue One, that's all part of the Star Wars universe. And so that's I think that's great. But I think the success of this film will open the door for other standalone films not about the Skywalkers.
Anything else you guys want to say before we close out the show?
Just that next year in May, Star Wars: A New Hope will be 40 years old.
Wow.
Oh god.
Hey, I saw it in the cinemas, so what are you talking about?
Oh god.
Time waited to go in the sense that we weren't born for a few years after that, but yeah, 40th anniversary of Star Wars next year.
That's cool. I think we're going to have to celebrate that. Blue milk all round.
This has been Hell of a Pilot. With me, on my right, the beautiful Mike Marriott. Do you have any shout-outs, Mike?
Not a specific one, but I've booked myself a spot in the ACT Regionals, and myself and a few others from our squad, we're going up to fly some spaceships.
Awesome. And you, Lockie? The immaculate Lockie?
Thank you. My well-groomed beard and I just want to do a shout out to Star Wars itself, having the big birthday next year, and I'm not going up to ACT, but good luck to all of you guys who I know and love, and yeah, I'll stay down here and mind Victoria for you.
And I have been your intoxicating and intoxicated host, Owen Cross, and I want to give a shout out to Mars. He said, and I'm not quite sure if he was being sarcastic, needs more shout-outs. So I'm going to say this sarcastically, but maybe not. Mars, you're just a hell of a pilot. You know, totally just a hell of a pilot. And that's about it. Anyone who wants to come say hello at ACT Regionals, please do. We look forward to meeting you all. Merry Christmas. Happy Life Day. Happy New Year. From all of us at Hell of a Pilot, have a good night, and when in doubt, focus.